rather it's a topic that has made a career for me, selling lands and ideas of where to invest from a data center point of view. I am Benjamin. I look after the data centers capital market business for Jain in India, and fortunate enough to actually having worked with all of them over the last 8 to 10 years. What are we looking at right now? We're looking at site selection. As India accelerates its digital transformation, the foundation of our data center future lies in critical questions we answer. Where do we build? Site selection today is no longer just a view of available lands and availability of power. It's about connectivity, resilience, sustainability, and long-term value creation. Our topic today, Blueprint 2025, Rethinking Site Selection and Investments for India's Data Center Future, challenges us to redefine how we evaluate locations, align investments, and shape the infrastructure that will power India's digital movement going forward. My first question is around investments and how do we look at it. And I would want to direct it to Sukrit and Dev in the order that you would want to take this up. When I started working towards site selections and related activity for supporting data center operators, this was around 2005, 6, 7. The requirements were very different. Multi-tenanted building was okay for people to be in. Fast forward about 2014, 15, NTT came into India by investing in NetMagic. Their views changed. A single building started being prominent in terms of usage. Fast forward again 2022, 23. That one odd building, two odd building turned out to be 30-acre, 50-acre campuses. So what's changed really? What fundamental shifts do you anticipate in India's data center landscape going forward now that we have seen so much of change between now and 2025? And how are these changes reshaping your investment thesis? Sukrit.
Hello. So it's a very important question in today's context all the more. As you were kind of guiding us through the phases when you started and what it is today, I think I resonate to you. So I represent Data Centers, gentlemen, as its Chief Revenue Officer. And the reason why I'm saying that I can relate to it all the more is because from a standalone silo data center culture that we had in India back then to a couple of buildings, and today we have our uptime tier for data center in a 10 acres campus in Vijayawada in Amravati, which is the capital of Andhra Pradesh. It's a self-contained data center ecosystem. So the term used is not data center building but ecosystem. So what has changed is from an era of buildings or infrastructure, it has moved to an era of ecosystem getting created where you have a modularity in place, you have true stable power capacity in place, moving to the renewable energy as a roadmap, quick decision making, the policies being aligned to a data center ecosystem being grown, okay, not in business, but the ecosystem being grown, right? And it enables the growth. That is the shift that we see that is peddling it now, and is going to only strengthen from. So the backwind that you see is going to only strengthen from here. I mean, that's what my take would be.
Yeah, thanks. I think you rightly said the industry has gone through a tectonic shift in terms of single deal volume. Today, these are gigawatt campuses are being spoken about. And when we take a step back fundamentally to understand how it's impacting the investment and site selection piece, what we see is that the product strategy or the end user that we are targeting is becoming integrated into the site selection process itself. Today, before even finding the land or finding the right location or entry into a market, you need to understand what is your end use case. You need to build accordingly. Designs are becoming more and more flexible, fundamental. We have to future-proof these designs. So I think it's just that the whole cycle itself, right from land to end use, is getting integrated, and that's what the shift we are seeing both from the investment point of view and then end user point of view, where they're taking full campuses. And lastly, why it's happening? It's primarily because you see denser racks today coming in, you see high performance compute coming in. The connectivity between these compute and these racks is growing, which can be only provided in an integrated setup. And that's one of the reasons that people are looking more and more scalability and expansion in the same site, so they're de-risking their overall architecture. So that's one high-level shift that we're seeing in the industry, and that's how industry data center operators are also reacting to it, and site selection subsequently is getting going in that format.
Thanks. I dwell a little further in that, and I would want whoever would want to address this. What we are seeing is a lot of your decision making, you're saying you're incorporating further with regards to what your client wants. But who is your client? Your client is not your immediate next user, but a user of user is also persistently being there. It adds to uncertainty. In that uncertainty, how are you trying to manage this in the back end? Probably the site that you would want to develop right now in terms of the capacities, maybe not the real capacity that you would have ideally wanted if you had all the knowledge as to what the end user would want. That decision, or probably the information dissemination, if it takes time, probably it hits you. How do you look at this uncertainty with interest? Please, Vipin.
Thanks, Benjamin. Firstly, the whole paradigm, the fundamental shift that you talked, Firstly, earlier it was a decision which the site engineer used to take, the lower level, whether soil quality is good, air quality is good, power is available, these were the kind of. But today, data center location is like the fundamental core business decision. Your entire success of business can be, determined by where you have selected the site. Secondly, just few years back, maybe 4-5 years back, you were looking for sites of 30 megawatts, 40 megawatts, right? But now we are looking at almost every place like gigawatt campuses coming in, at least in the major places. And once you start talking of gigawatt campuses, now they cannot be in the heart of the city, right? They have to be somewhere little away from the population centers, yet not so far away that customers find it very difficult to reach. Then safety, security becomes very important elements, because now it is not like 10 DGs or 20 DGs, we are not talking of 200 DGs coming in or 500 DGs coming in those particular locations. Noise levels will be high, so safety. Third thing is power availability, and that too we want renewable. And I think a lot of will address this power specifically. But now, in such cases, the amount of investments that are going in is so huge, you cannot afford to go wrong on the site. If you do one wrong mistake, it is like billions of dollars mistake, and you cannot retrieve it back. So that's where, this is extremely critical now of the site selection for the design.
Actually, this was exactly my second question that was supposed to be asked, and you very nicely put across the first perspective and combine the second perspective as well. I would take this opportunity to ask Sukrit one more question. Beyond traditional factors like power availability and connectivity, what new parameters are becoming critical in your site selection process?
So I think again, how we are looking at it, see, power availability are the technical aspects. It is extremely important to understand the overall compute requirements of the end user, what are their preferred regions, how they are operating, what their architecture is, where are their workloads, where their network nodes are located. I think the intelligence around the customer end use cases, what kind of business they are targeting, it's becoming more and more important to understand that aspect and then tie it back into power availability. So once you're able to kind of have an overall outlook from a both end user perspective and from the power availability perspective and land perspective, that's where you really crack the code on the right selection strategy. And that's what we are more and more seeing. So I would say I would keep the end user demand and end user requirement at the top, and then backward power availability towards it. Obviously, power is today becoming more and more an important factor, and that's what attracting most of the customers. That's more of a technical aspect that I think operators need to solve, and then backward from the use case given the problem.
Deepak, you have serviced the, or as an operator, you were looking at servicing the hyperscale requirements. Does the perspective change vis-a-vis what Sukrit has suggested, what his views are? Because he is also a hybrid player, hyperscaler plus enterprise clients. But for hyperscale, do you have a view which is contradicting here or which is different?
Not really, Benjamin, but I think we are all in a very unenviable situation right now. Given that we service a lot of the hyperscaler demand, there's been a tectonic shift in the way capacity is being solved for by the hyperscalers. So, with, this is the problem with very rich clients. There are several self-built programs that are being announced throughout the world by all of these hyperscalers because they want to balance between third-party data centers and their self-builds. And typically when it comes to third-party, is a failure of the self-built programs or a delay from the self-built programs, which is what drives them to third parties. So unfortunately, we don't have the benefit of having the hindsight of where their capacity will come and when it will come. So a certain part of our business is about proactively looking at their expansion patterns, where are their new availability zones being announced, and solving for it at the back end. Because if you wait for them, because typically RFSs are 4 to 5 quarters is what their seek is, whether we move from 4 to 5 megawatt capacity requirements to 30 to 50 per build. To solve for that kind of a situation, I think the traditional way of looking at getting a signal from the hyperscaler and then getting your act together doesn't work.
But that's a good side of your business as well, right? What I understand, when cloud deployment used to happen, there was a very phased manner take-up that used to be very well defined. But now that definition is completely overthrown, right? So at some point in time, they would come and say, I need a deployment for the entire building. So your investments also needs to be tracked on that basis. There's a lot of flexibility from an investment point of view that you would need to look at, right? Vipin, something which is significant to the operations and design philosophy that possibly you would track within your system. How are sustainability requirements and ESG mandates changing the way you evaluate potential DC sites?
Sustainability is becoming a very core fundamental decision-making factors on which the site selection is getting decided. But as a country, we need to make little bit site selection agnostic to the sustainability framework. What is happening is, if you see sustainability, there are states where solar power is ample and abundant. There are other states where wind power is more abundant, and there are third kind of states where hydropower is abundant. There are very less combinations where all three are available at one place. So then what you need is an integrated grid where you can take solar power from Rajasthan, just as an example, hydropower from Himachal, wind power from Chennai, all of three, you source it and deliver it in maybe Mumbai where your customer wants a data center. And that is where I think the government is also playing a very important role in bringing the integrated grid system with CPU-based power accessibility. As that happens, I think then any data center can source power from anywhere across the country and deliver it into wherever your customers are looking for data centers and where business needs the data center, because there is a certain amount of latency role that is very evident, in dealing with any international clients. So I think that way we can deal with sustainability and data center business side of it, both in a very, very amicable way, rather than data center trying to chase, into the states which may be able to give you better sustainability, but from a business application point of view may not be the best locations.
So in short, what you're saying is there is no proper meeting of minds or marriage that is currently happening around this. We need to be a little more subtle in terms of how we do this.
I think there is a meeting of minds in the sense that I think there are certain initiatives coming from central government here in making this whole ecosystem work, for everyone, other than, and in addition, states are also trying to do something in this direction to bring it to their fold. So there is both sides trying to do something, but my one take is very easy, data center industry is the only industry, I think, where India is leading in the entire Asia Pacific. I think so many industries have come and gone in last 100 years, but I think first time India is almost taking a lead position, as the destination of choice. Gradually we are moving there, and that is because the whole ecosystem is making it possible.
That's something which is very good and something which we are all proud of and look forward to, because that will lead to a lot more work that comes as an ecosystem for us. Sukrit and Deepak, again, you are more into investments and you lead those charge of acquisition of sites. I just wanted to check from you the perspective, because both of you have a different view, not differently, but represent different views in terms of a data center operator. What's the investment model proving most effective in India? Is it a hyperscaler build? Is it an enterprise grid build? Or is it a hybrid that one should look at?
Interesting question, Rajman. We keep rapping about this throughout our internal discussions. So the good part about it is the last 4-5 years have seen hyperactive, hyperscaler engagement, just because of the AI models getting announced and learning models getting developed. So it's been a little bit of a land grab kind of a situation. So viewing that in isolation is not possibly the best way to answer your question on whether it's one model or a hybrid model that will work. Having said that, also what has happened in the last few years is a concentration of end users. So I mean, most of us here as third-party developers of data centers have to, rely on the 3-4 names that contribute maybe 80-90% of the total market demand. Because the scale has evolved drastically, enterprises haven't exactly kept pace with the kind of growth that hyperscalers have demonstrated.
But would they ever keep that pace?
That's an interesting question. So what we're looking at is, this is our personal view. Again, I'm not saying that this is going to be an absolute truth. What we have seen is the first leg of AI in terms of the investments and the kind of commitments that the hyperscalers are making. What works in India's advantage is the population and a very literate IT ecosystem which will prepare use cases. So my belief is that you will not have training models come as far as India, and the bulk of the work will continue to happen in North America. And the inferencing work which will have to serve domestic populations will be the one that will really take off in India. What that means, when you juxtapose it with data sovereignty and the government's eagerness to capture more of the data that belongs to its citizens within the country, means that capacity in India for inferencing has to be in India. That will create a new set of users or clients. I would not say enterprises, but these are neo-clouds and AI players who are creating use cases for inferencing that will actually start getting seriously large in terms of the capacity requirements over the next 5 years.
Do you see a lot of India data training happening in India going forward? Or would that make a big leap in terms of the consumption?
I'm very bullish because I think the number of languages that we have, I mean, I'm just giving you a small anecdotal example, right? An English model, learning model will not work for India, right? We have 30 languages. And unfortunately or fortunately, we are still, not as evolved as the Western ecosystem. But the initial, play by all these players has already started. So if you look at an OpenAI, if you look at Perplexity, why are they not charging the same dollars per subscriber as they're charging in the US? Because they have understood that if you want to compete in India, you have to play the volume game, and you can't price those services as what you price them in the US. So this is a great time for us, because when you make it more accessible to create use cases in different languages, in different industry groups, to specifically address certain real-time needs and make the processes more efficient, I think the adoption of AI will bring about that change in user set.
Sukrit, any views on that? And I'm mindful of the fact that we don't have much time, and I am still to bring in Prasad in the conversation.
I'll quickly, so I think we spoke about a lot of use cases. I feel we are still in a very nascent stage in the industry. We still have to, it's an investment build stage that we are in. As the industry matures, we'll find which are the right models. But it's a very customized question that every operator needs to find its own niche. And he spoke about the demand side, but there are what's your risk appetite, what's your capital strategy. I think everything has to kind of gel in. And based on what is your capital strategy and what is your end user strategy, you have to marry the two and find the niche. And there will be a customized strategy for every operator out there. You can't have the same strategy applied to everyone.
Prasad, one question that I would want you to address is, given the long-term nature of investments, how do you factor in India's evolving infra development plans when making these site selection decisions? There's a lot that is happening around us from a power point of view, from a road point of view, accessibility point of view. Do you have a larger view around these when you're looking at some of these very different locations? Do you take such calls?
So, I represent CapitaLand, and we meet customers day in, day out, right? So what we are seeing currently is the contracts are getting longer. When you talk about 5 years, 10 years, now the contracts are 17 years, 20 years. It's not only the view for next 10, 15 years, we have to take a view of next 2 decades now. That's number one. Second, I'll just give a brief, because you asked many questions, and we have a very opt use case which is of CapitaLand, where we started a site selection in 2020. We acquired 4 land parcels in Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad. We started hyperscale, future-proof, AI-ready data centers, keeping both enterprise and hyperscale in mind. And as we started speculative, right, we anticipated a customer requirement which was, a complete AI liquid cooled model, and we could easily accommodate in that specific site selection. So what I wanted to tell you is, in nutshell, that we are here to accommodate customers' requirement, right? And what is more opt and prominent for as of this date is customer requirement is going to change every now and then. Whether it's AI today, there is something else tomorrow. As a data center service provider, we have to be ready with all the upcoming new inventions which comes in, and the best of the technologies and cooling things can be accommodated in the data center.
Raj, your quick view on that?
So today, in terms of a site selection, 2-3 fundamental things loom large. One is see that there, as Sukrit and fellow analysts were also mentioning, right? One is you have a hyperscaler which is more driven around the large language models, the AI inference and all of it, but they are building it large and big. Then there is another layer which is driven by the population that we're just referring to, right? Is taking the data to the last mile user, which results to edge. So edge is also going to drive a lot of decisions while doing site selections, right? Where customers, players like us, or there's other players are going to pick edge locations as well, right? So it's not going to be only electronic casting stone of a centralized hyperscaler, So decentralized model is going to drive the site selection strategy. So and third is customers. From an India perspective, customers' tendency to get the best of both the worlds, having hybrid model. So if you look at it in nutshell, it would be a mixed bag. Modularity, accessibility to the last mile, availability of true raw scalable power, ease of policies, and availability of renewable energy, including open access. So all of these put together are going to drive the decision making in terms of site selections.
Considering the paucity of time,
Yeah.
thank you so much. But I'll try to take a forward view of all the panels on this one. We were talking about Blueprint 2025, considering a fast forward about 10 years from today. What would define as success for your DC portfolio? And what would be the key decisions made today that would determine that output? Vipin sir.
See, two things I see there. If I see today, already if I see my company CtrlS, we are building 3 data center campuses of a gigawatt each. This is already in 2025. So if I have to see 2035 from here, at least I look forward to multiple campuses of 10 gigawatt kind of capacity, and each one requiring almost like 100 acres of land. So the first very important fundamental there is, in India if you see there are places where land is available but power is not there, and where power is there the land is not there. Good thing is some governments are taking initiative to bring these two together. For example, Telangana. They have brought at least 3 places, land and power together, so that you can build such kind of forward-looking places. I think this is something, all states, at least Maharashtra has to do more of it and Chennai has to do more of it. And both the governments are working in that direction. That is, I think, the first thing from a forward-looking 2035. Second thing is, if you are looking for such kind of huge power consumptions, we have to think of our people, environment, and we have to make it more and more sustainable. And that is where, at least from a CtrlS point of view, we are working on battery storage so that solar can be delivered 24/7. How do we mix wind power, solar power and hydro together so that we give 24/7 sustainability? How do we bring grey water into the use in the data centers so that you get much more efficient QE, at the same time you don't consume any drinking or potable water. So I think, and the very new concept which our chairman is very fond of, negative QE. I think very shortly, we are going to come to this industry with a negative QE concept. Till today everybody, still talk of 1.3, 1.4. At least we are already working on our new data center on 1.16 QE. And I'm sure maybe next year when we meet, we'll talk to you about negative QE. Thank you.
That's a forward-looking view of how 2035 would look like. And I agree with Vipin, with any development that we're seeing, a sustainable development would be the key to become really the way forward. Raj, quick view on that. 2035 for Pi, how are you envisaging?
So I think it would be a mixed bag. We would pick the focus and the vision is to have to bring the rest of all the worlds together. Whether it is talking about a gigawatt based large campus, where we are right now running the 60 megawatt campus at Amravati, scaling that up to a gigawatt plus, to having a mesh of edge where we are going closer to the users, and with AI infusion coming in, right, and AI, against the popular belief, AI is not going to stay centralized. It's going to go to the last mile with the gaming and the 5G, kind of explosion that's happening. So AI would also go to the last mile. So the edge should be able to feed into the AI as well. So we're going to see a mixed bag of both, where there will be centralized, strong hub locations, and then the edge, the child would feed into that as well. So we see that combination working well. And obviously built in with a lot of infusion of renewable energy. That's the name of the game, because you can't sustain such huge capacity, huge power guzzling ecosystem with native power, right? You need that renewable energy, open access, favorable government policies, right? And modular infrastructure, right? Where you can really play to the name, right? You can really make it quick available, the quick go-to-market for the customer, not only for you, but for the customer as well. So the modularity is going to be the name of the game.
Surprisingly, modularity is the first time I'm hearing in our conversation. Otherwise,
I think
that's something which is very important to actually service the services and take this industry to the next level. Prasad, your quick view on that. 2035.
So, if you look at CapitaLand, we have a DNA of real estate investment management and a data center domain expertise. We are strongly a value-driven company. We believe in a sustainable development for communities which are economical and environmental sustainable. And we definitely look at a long-term view. When we started our operations, we were at zero. Now we are 245 megawatt of gross load.
That's what, 3 years?
3 years back. In next 2 years, 3 years, we are again looking at another 300 plus megawatts. But the growth is not only our aim. We are looking at a sustainable growth with all the partner ecosystems together, and we are looking at a digital Bharat dream, which we have recently, when we opened, there was inauguration, and Singapore Deputy Prime Minister along with CM of Maharashtra, we opened the state-of-the-art AI future-ready data center inaugurated, and we are looking at a partnership along with India and the citizens of India to develop a digital Bharat.
Yeah. We are a digital infrastructure company, so as long as whatever we are building today can stand the test of time, and whatever infrastructure we are putting, it stays relevant after 2035, that's probably our aim. And we are investing into long-term infrastructure. That's the objective of the company. That will be the success story.
So given the pace of technological change that has happened, 2035 seems like a long way out. But what's important is to break it down into like smaller pieces of 3-4 years. What we see is India being a top 3 global market for data centers, given the population, the size of the market, and the establishment of the infrastructure that is required to create an ecosystem. So I think we have been laggards, but clearly we are stepping up big time with all the states coming together, with central policies aligning to it. So the key message for everyone is, or for us internally, is sustainable, scalable, and speed to market. So if we can address these 3 points, I don't see any reason why India cannot be a top 3 data center market in the world. Thank you.
With this, I would try to summarize the way we were looking at it. The clear trend that is coming up with conversations from all the expert panelists, and they represent some of the biggest DC operators in the country, is the fact that sustainable development is the only way we will be able to really grow the way we need to, right? And probably break these 10 years into periods of 2 to 3 years, reevaluate what's coming at the end of 3rd year, 2nd year. For that matter, if I may say that the technology is changing every 6 months. What was a future-ready DC becomes a redundant DC in some form way the moment some new technology comes in, right? So we need to be mindful of that fact. And the clear trend that I could see was going really large. 1 gigawatt is something that people are going to talk, and over the next 2 to 5 years, possibly that would be a dream that will come true in India also, right? So that one can be scalable 10 times going forward, and that's what we've been slowly trying to chase And there are other people who would say that I would really look at from a test of time perspective, go the way the investment strategy for the group really looks at and sustain that growth rather than just go for a big time development combo. The way the DC industry currently is growing is multi-factored right now, and as professionals who are in the ecosystem, we are really looking forward to this growth and being a part of this entire journey, and also look forward to making it sustainable. With this, I thank everyone on the panel to give their expert view, and also thank all the audience who took time to sit here and listen to all of them. Thank you so much, and appreciate your time that you were able to invest here. Thank you.